Hi, this is Daniel. I am a grandparent who wants to build a spiritual legacy in my grandchildren. In the quiet moments of life, when the house is still and the echoes of childish laughter have faded into the gentle rhythm of sleep, a profound question often settles in the hearts of grandparents. It's a question that transcends the immediate joy of a shared cookie, the thrill of a trip to the park, or the simple comfort of a hug. It is a question that reaches across the years, past their own time, and into the very soul of their descendants. What am I truly leaving behind? What is the enduring legacy of my life? For Christian grandparents, this question carries an eternal weight. Beyond the family heirlooms, the financial inheritances, and the cherished memories, lies a treasure of immeasurable value, a spiritual legacy. It is the inheritance of faith, the knowledge of a God who loves them, the assurance of salvation through Jesus Christ, and the wisdom of a life lived in obedience to His Word. This is the legacy that truly matters, the one that has the power to shape not just a lifetime, but an eternity. Yet, in our fast-paced, digitally saturated, and increasingly secular world, the task of passing on this sacred torch can feel more daunting than ever. How do you compete with the constant barrage of screens and secular ideologies? How do you speak timeless truths into a culture that often dismisses them as outdated? How do you build a bridge of faith across generational gaps that can seem wider than ever before? The desire is there, burning brightly in the hearts of believing grandparents. You have walked with God. You have seen His faithfulness in seasons of joy and valleys of sorrow. You have tasted the goodness of His promises and felt the comfort of His presence. You know, with every fiber of your being, that this is the one thing your grandchildren absolutely cannot live without. But the how can feel elusive, overwhelming, and fraught with the fear of failure. What there is a guide, a trusted companion, a roadmap, a source of encouragement and practical wisdom written specifically for this sacred calling. What if you could have a resource that doesn't just inspire you with the why of this grand mission, but equips you with tangible, actionable steps for the how? There is. It is called Passing the Faith, a Grandparent's Guide to Leaving a Spiritual Legacy, and it is the resource you have been praying for. This is not just another Christian book filled with vague platitudes and sentimental anecdotes. This is a strategic, heartfelt, and deeply practical guide designed to empower you, the Christian grandparent, to become the intentional spiritual mentor God has called you to be. This article will explore the immense importance of your role, the unique challenges you face, and how this essential ebook can be the catalyst for building a spiritual heritage in your family that will echo for generations to come. Before we delve into the practical strategies, we must first establish the ground upon which this entire mission rests, the God-ordained, irreplaceable role of a grandparent in the spiritual formation of a family. Scripture is replete with examples and commands that highlight this profound responsibility and privilege. Consider the powerful declaration of the psalmist in Psalm 78 verses 4-7. We will not hide them from their children, but tell the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord, and His might, and the wonders that He has done. He established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which He commanded our fathers to teach to their children, that the next generation might know them, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep His commandments. This passage is a multi-generational mandate. It speaks of a chain of communication, a relay race of faith where one generation takes the baton from the previous and runs with all their might to pass it to the next. Grandparents are a critical link in this chain. You are the coming generation mentioned to your children, and you are the fathers who will teach your grandchildren. You possess a unique perspective, a long-range view of God's faithfulness that your children, in the thick of raising their own families, may not yet have the time or distance to fully appreciate. You're a living testament. Your life is a history book of God's grace. When you share stories of how He provided during a time of job loss, how He healed a sickness, how He gave you peace in the midst of a storm, or how He guided a major life decision, You're doing more than just telling a story. You are providing concrete evidence of a living, active, and loving God. You are teaching your grandchildren that faith is not an abstract concept, but a real-world reality. Your testimony answers their unspoken questions. Is God real? Does he care? Can I trust him? Your life shouts a resounding yes. Furthermore, grandparents often have a distinct advantage that even parents sometimes lack time. Parents are often consumed with the relentless demands of work, school schedules, extracurricular activities, and the day-to-day discipline of raising children. You, on the other hand, may have a luxury of unhurried moments. It's in these unhurried moments, fishing by a lake, baking cookies in the kitchen, working on a project in the garage, or just sitting on the porch swing, that the most significant spiritual conversations often take place. These are moments of relaxed connection, where hearts are open and guards are down, creating the perfect environment for seeds of faith to be planted. Furthermore, grandparents often have a distinct advantage that even parents sometimes lack time. Parents are often consumed with the relentless demands of work, school schedules, extracurricular activities, and the day-to-day discipline of raising children. You, on the other hand, may have a luxury of unhurried moments. It's in these unhurried moments, fishing by a lake, baking cookies in the kitchen, working on a project in the garage, or just sitting on the porch swing, that the most significant spiritual conversations often take place. These are moments of relaxed connection, where hearts are open and guards are down, creating the perfect environment for seeds of faith to be planted. The Bible also gives us the beautiful framework of Deuteronomy 6 verses 4-9, the Shema, which commands parents to impress God's commandments on their children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Grandparents are co-laborers in this divine task. You reinforce what is being taught at home. You fill in the gaps, and you provide a consistent, loving echo of the truths that your children are striving to instill. You are the powerful, supportive second voice that confirms the spiritual reality of the family. Your role is not to replace the parents, but to partner with them. It is to come alongside them, to support them, and to amplify the spiritual message of the home. You are the wise counsel mentioned in Proverbs, the elder whose years of experience with God provide a depth and richness that is invaluable. In a world that is constantly pulling at the hearts and minds of your grandchildren, your voice of steadfast, seasoned faith is an anchor. It is a lighthouse, guiding them safely to the shore of God's truth. This is your high calling, your sacred duty, and your immeasurable privilege. Acknowledging the vital importance of your role is the first step. The second is to honestly assess the unique battlefield you're called to serve on. The world your grandchildren are inheriting is vastly different from the one in which you raise your own children. To be effective, you must understand the terrain. The challenges are real, but they are not insurmountable with God's wisdom and the right tools. The digital deluge. Perhaps the most formidable challenge is the omnipresence of technology. Smartphones, tablets, social media, and endless streaming services have created a constant stream of distraction and a competing source of influence. Your grandchildren are being shaped, often subtly, by the values, worldviews, and ideologies promoted by algorithms, influencers, and online communities. This digital noise can drown out the still, small voice of God and make it incredibly difficult for spiritual truths to gain any traction. The battle for attention is fierce, and a 15-minute conversation about faith can't always compete with the instant gratification of a viral video. The rise of secularism. The cultural air we breathe has changed. The Christian worldview is no longer the default assumption in society, in education, or in media. Your grandchildren are being taught, either explicitly or implicitly, that truth is relative, that morality is subjective, and that faith is a private matter that should be kept to oneself. They are encountering ideas like secular humanism, moral relativism, and progressive ideologies that stand in direct opposition to biblical principles. They may be challenged with questions like, how can you say Jesus is the only way? Or, why would you believe a book that's so old? Without a firm foundation and the tools to defend their faith, they can be easily swept away by the currents of modern skepticism. The generational gap. While generational gaps have always existed, the rapid pace of cultural change has widened them. The language, the music, the social norms, and the core struggles of today's youth can feel foreign and confusing. It can be tempting to either dismiss their world entirely or to try and adopt it in a way that feels inauthentic. This gap can create a communication barrier where you feel like you're speaking a different language. You may long to connect on a spiritual level, but find yourself stuck talking about surface-level topics because you don't know how to bridge the gap to their world and their hearts. The fragmented family. The traditional family structure is not what it once was. Geographical distance often means grandparents live hundreds or even thousands of miles away from their grandchildren. Divorce and blended families create complex dynamics. Schedules are packed, and quality, intentional time is a rare commodity. It can be easy to feel like a peripheral figure, a special occasion visitor rather than a consistent, influential presence in their daily lives. How can you build a spiritual legacy when you only see them for a week in the summer and a few days at Christmas? This ebook is your strategic partner in overcoming these challenges and stepping confidently into your God-given role. It moves beyond the why and gives you a comprehensive, step-by-step blueprint for the how. Here is a detailed look at the transformative wisdom and practical tools you will find within its pages. 1. Cultivating your own spiritual garden. The guide begins with a foundational truth. You cannot pass on what you do not possess. Before you can pour into your grandchildren, you must be intentional about your own walk with God. The book provides a roadmap for deepening your own spiritual vitality. It offers practical strategies for revitalizing your prayer life, not just as a duty, but as a vibrant, two-way conversation with the God who loves your grandchildren even more than you do. It guides you in fresh approaches to Scripture, helping you move from routine reading to life-changing encounters. It challenges you to reflect on your own story of faith, helping you see the hand of God in your past, so you can share it with authentic power. This section is about becoming a healthy, spiritually rooted tree, so that you can provide shade and fruit for the generations that follow. 2. Mastering the art of spiritual conversation. This is where the book shines in its practical genius. It dismantles the fear of saying the wrong thing by teaching you the art of natural, organic, and engaging spiritual conversation. You will learn how to move beyond formal sermons and discover faith in the everyday. The guide provides a framework for asking powerful, open-ended questions that invite reflection rather than defensiveness. You'll discover how to use a movie, a current event, a struggle your grandchild is facing, or even a beautiful sunset as a launch pad for a conversation about God's character, His purposes, and His love. It gives you scripts and examples, not for you to memorize word for word, but to model a way of communicating that is both winsome and uncompromising. You will learn how to listen more than you speak, how to validate their feelings even when you disagree with their conclusions, and how to create a safe space where they can be honest about their doubts and fears without judgment. 3. Building a legacy of intentional traditions. The book powerfully illustrates how traditions can be vessels of spiritual truth. It moves beyond the idea of just going to church and helps you embed faith into the very rhythm of your family's life. You will be inspired with a treasure trove of ideas for creating meaningful, God-centered traditions. Imagine establishing a blessing jar at Thanksgiving where everyone writes down God's goodness from the past year, or creating a specific grandparent camp each summer with a daily devotional theme, a service project, an intentional time for spiritual connection. The guide will help you rethink holidays like Christmas and Easter, moving them beyond commercialism to their profound spiritual core in ways that captivate the hearts of children and teens. These traditions become the spiritual landmarks in your grandchildren's lives, anchoring them in truth and creating cherished memories that are inextricably linked with faith. 4. Telling your story of grace. The guide provides a dedicated section to help you conquer the fear of your own past and turn your testimony into a tool for God's glory. It walks you through the process of crafting your story, not as a sanitized highlight reel, but as a real, raw, and redemptive account of God's work in your life. It helps you identify key moments of failure, God's faithful intervention, and the lessons you learned along the way. You will gain the confidence to share your struggles with sin, your seasons of doubt, and your ultimate dependence on God's grace. This kind of vulnerability is disarming and powerful. It shows your grandchildren that the Christian faith is not for perfect people, but for forgiven people. It gives them hope that they too can be redeemed and used by God, regardless of their past mistakes. 5. Becoming a warrior of prayer. Perhaps the most critical component of the guide is its emphasis on your role as a prayer warrior. It reframes prayer not as a last resort, but as your primary and most powerful weapon in the spiritual battle for your grandchildren's hearts. The book provides a strategic framework for how to pray for them specifically and effectively. You will learn how to pray for their protection from the lies of the enemy, for their hearts to be softened to the gospel, for godly friends and mentors to come into their lives, and for their parents as they lead the family. It will inspire you to create a prayer journal specifically for your grandchildren, tracking their needs and celebrating God's answers. This section will ignite a new passion in you to intercede, filling you with a sense of purpose and power, knowing that you are partnering with God on their behalf, even when you can't be with them physically. 6. Partnering with parents, not competing. The guide masterfully navigates the delicate dynamic of the grandparents-parent relationship. It provides wisdom on how to be supportive and encouragement to your children as they raise their own kids. You'll learn how to have open conversations with them about your desire to be a spiritual influence, asking for their blessing and their insight. It teaches you how to submit to their leadership as parents while still fulfilling your God-given role, creating a beautiful synergy instead of friction. This ebook gives you some answers to these questions. To begin or continue your track to building a legacy in your grandchildren, this special resource can give you more ideas as to what you can do. Download it today.